Well, there's a conventional wisdom, which is the BRIC view, that Russia's rapidly declining in population, although it will, as the price of oil rises and gas, Russia will have a kind of militaristic renewal, which you're already seeing. Europe's population continues to decline. India, China reach their full maturity as economic powers, and maybe Brazil as well. And the U.S. is on a kind of a long, slow descent.
It's one-dimensional.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the power issue is going to be much more clustered. And there will be a cluster that is energy-based clusters,
Right.
Which power will reside. And there will be clusters that I call them human resource clusters, or the technology innovation clusters that will create some power structures. So the days of what we used to call United States, Europe,
Right.
Japan, and others, that model of power structures are no longer going to be valid. It is going to be based on primarily what the society values. And they value in terms of resources,
Right.
Be it as energy or the water or whatever that might be, or in terms of the intellectual level.
Well, Richard Florida has this nice thesis, which I rather like, of clusters, nodes of cities.
Yes.
And that really replicates what Aristotle said about the Mediterranean. He said we are like frogs around a pond. If you look at Roman and Greco-Roman antiquity, it was all a network of cities. Yes. And those cities were the most highly valued thing in that world. And they are here as well. That's where everyone wants to live. And then the people who don't live in the cities, even in the U.S., are more and more left behind. They're kind of abandoned.
In the United States, the transformation of the southern states occurred from cities outward. And you have rural areas in the Mississippi Delta that look the same way now as they did in the 19-teens. And I think it does speak to this fact that cities are going to maintain a certain kind of spatial significance. I mean, we want to talk about how land and space isn't going to matter because of all these other networks in terms of finance and information and the rest of it. But land is the absolute third rail in American conversations and also in these geopolitical conversations. And I feel like if there's ever going to be a kind of shift at all, we're going to have to radically rethink the way that we talk about land and the purpose that it serves, because that's not going anywhere. That's the one common denominator, I think. And you're going to have a lot of movements that are coming out of the so-called third world that are going to be about land justice. You're going to have movements coming out of the first world that are going to be about land justice. And I think there's going to be room for some common cause to be made. Now, whether or not we're going to have people articulate enough to express that common cause remains to be seen. But on the question of resources, I think this land question is going to come back in a major way and really kind of crystallize how we talk about injustice.